Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria Q. Kane.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about the hottest thing on the internet right now, which is Liam Neeson and Pam Anderson's relationship, a recall on energy drinks that were accidentally filled with vodka, the world's oldest baby, how silicone breast implants could cause heart disease, and what happens if you're in the middle of taking a test and someone suddenly goes into cardiac arrest. All that and more on today's episode.
All right, let's start with Liam Neeson. So he's
You know what's amazing about this story, actually?
What?
That I think there's certain subjects, rarely, like we could say a couple weeks ago, it was like the Coldplay video thing.
Yeah.
Now it's like this, Pam Anderson and Liam Neeson. Like, everyone is happy about this.
Of course they are. Let's get into it and then we'll talk about why.
Okay.
He's been in the press a lot in general because Naked Gun just came out and Pamela Anderson's in that movie too. And this news story has come out that after the death of his wife, Natasha Richardson, he apparently wrote makeup artist Sandy Littner a thank you note for doing such a great job on her funeral makeup.
Yeah, that was really shocking when she died.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I was very devastated because she's in The Parent Trap. She's the mom. She was like my favorite actress ever when I was a little kid. I thought she was Princess Diana when I was a little kid because they looked exactly the same. And her death was really shocking to everybody. It was similar to how Bob Saget died too, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to bring this up in my lecture at CrimeCon, actually. But Natasha Richardson, she was, for those of you who forget or aren't familiar with her death, she was skiing and she fell and it hit her head. So the first problem was that she wasn't wearing a helmet, which when we wrote the celebrity death dissection years ago on her, I did mention how, I mean, obviously wearing a helmet does not look cute with the outfit, right? But like you have to wear a helmet when you're doing something like that. So she fell and hit her head, and they came and examined her right away and suggested that she go to the hospital, but she felt fine. And all of a sudden she started, she was fine for a while. And then she started having a really bad headache. And because they were so far away from a local trauma center, she was not able to be brought to the hospital in time, and she ended up dying from a brain bleed. And if she would have went to the hospital as soon as she hit her head at the advice of the paramedics, she would likely still be alive today.
I'm actually surprised that it's not required that trauma centers have to be near ski resorts because don't you think they often have accidents? And when there are accidents, they're typically a little catastrophic, meaning people breaking limbs or having severe concussions.
Well, it seemed that she was, at first this happened in Canada, so that's, I mean, everything's so spread apart there, because it's just so big up there. And they were 2 hours by car from a trauma center. So I don't know. I'm sure that they do medical flights or something like that. I'm not sure how that works, but I mean, yeah, I guess if you need acute medical attention, that could be a problem. But something like a head injury like that, where you have to have blood evacuated from your skull, you definitely want to be at a place that's used to doing something like that. So she had an epidural bleed. So what happened is that this is a bleed that occurs above the dura mater, which is the covering that covers your brain. It's like a thick, fibrous kind of blanket that covers your brain. And when the blood vessel is injured during the fall, in most cases, if that vessel, for example, is severed, like I don't know, if you get in a car accident and you hit your head in that sweet spot, you will usually bleed to death pretty quickly because that's an artery. And when arteries are severed, every single time your heart beats, the blood pours out, right? But in your skull, your brain is already filling up so much of the space, so there's not much more space for blood to go. And what happens is that this clot starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger and starts pressing down on your brain, and it could push your brain down so much that it goes to the respiratory centers of the brain and starts turning off your ability for your brain to make your lungs work and to function. So with her, she must not have had a super serious tear because it she took hours to die. In fact, she was finally brought to the hospital and was alive for 2 days. They were able to at least keep her alive for 2 days until she finally died from it. So I'm assuming she had surgery to try to evacuate the clot, but the damage was already done by the time she got there. So that's why I really think that just because of how long it took her to get this severe headache, I think that if she went to the hospital right away, there would definitely have been a chance for her to survive. And what's really sad about it is at the time of her death, she had two little kids, right? And she was married to Liam Neeson. And apparently he hasn't dated since she died.
Yeah, I was shocked by that, especially because he was kind of known to have a bunch of star-studded relationships, including Barbra Streisand, Brooke Shields, Helen Mirren, and Janice Dickinson, who we'll get to in a minute. But I think that, like, everybody's just so excited that he's with Pamela Anderson because they are 15 years apart in age, but it is seemingly more age appropriate. He's in his early 70s. Oftentimes you see men in their early 70s dating 20 or 30-year-olds. She's 58. So I think in Hollywood, that's still considered an age appropriate relationship. You know, she's been through the ringer with everything that happened with Tommy Lee and everything that happened with the sex tape scandal, the show coming out, Pam and Tommy, and her not liking that, her writing her memoir, and how that so deeply affected her. So I think it's really cool to see that they got really close on the set of the movie and now they're dating, and I think it's really cute.
It is so cute. And it's so cute that he didn't date anyone. Like, to me, I'm like, okay, he really, like, loved his wife and was traumatized by that. And
Yeah.
And apparently, like, he did a post with her, and Natasha Richardson's sister, like, is all for the relationship, apparently, which also is a really good sign because he's obviously been dad to these kids who are now grown ups.
Yeah, they're my age.
Yeah. And like, I mean, just focused on his career and his children and his family, but he deserves to have love too, and she's the best person to do it with. Now, let's talk about the article that came out with Janice Dickinson.
Well, this is what I was saying when Ozzy Osbourne died. Like, these articles always have to surface about these totally random
Oh yeah, everyone
things.
keeps coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, of course. So now that he's been all up in the news and everything, Janice Dickinson had apparently said that he has the biggest penis she's ever seen and equated it to an Evian bottle.
Well, good for Pam.
Well, I think that
Evian bottle, that's nice. I mean, like, what would make her think, like, you know what, like, I have to just put this out there?
Yeah, an interesting development. I think Janice Dickinson's hilarious for saying, and she doubled down on it too. She said it, I guess, for the first time in 2005. They had dated really briefly or maybe just hooked up in the late 80s, early 90s. And then she doubled down on it, saying it was indeed the biggest she's ever seen. So,
well, that's a
good for Pam.
Good for Pam.
It seems like everybody's fully in support of this. Andy Cohen, who was also really close to Natasha Richardson, was so excited about it. He had them both on Watch What Happens Live last week, and it was really cute to see them interact with each other. And I just think it's really nice, and everybody's for it. And hopefully they've, had love again after both kind of going through traumatic things on their own.
Yeah. Actually, let me say a side note too. Pamela Anderson's boys are, like, very handsome.
They are very cute.
I didn't see Liam Neeson's kids. I actually wanted to look them up to see what they look like, if they look like Natasha, but her sons are, like, really handsome. I mean, they really are.
They're from beautiful people.
Very good. I know. It's just a side note.
We need to remember too that, like, she had plastic surgery at some point. But before she did, she was drop dead gorgeous. I mean, this is what people, like, she was hired as a model without having all the fillers and everything.
She was discovered on a Jumbotron at, like, a game in Canada.
Yeah, and then she became the Labatt's girl, and then she started working for Playboy. I mean, Her memoir is really good. I read it a couple years ago or whenever it came out. Maybe it was last summer or the summer before. It's very good. Her documentary is very good that follows up. I did think that show, Pam and Tommy, was good, even though it really upset her that they were telling her story. But I did think it really shined a good light on her and didn't make her look, bad. Like, everybody, of course, made her the villain in that story when she did nothing wrong. So I think this lady's really gone through it, and hopefully this is a nice chance.
Think about that. That would upset me too if someone was just like, "Oh, you're still alive, and I'm going to make a movie about your side of the story." Like that. That's like not cool.
No, definitely
But
not.
I guess people do that all the time with books and stuff like that. Like it's just, I could understand that you would feel like upset about that.
Well, this is like, that show The Crown was incredible. And then Meghan Markle was like, if you say anything about us, I'm going to sue you, Netflix. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, you wish you were a character on a show that had all these awards. Get a life. Okay, let's move on to this next one. So, the FDA has issued a warning after Celsius energy drink cans were accidentally filled with vodka.
It's more alarming, like, how this happened.
I feel like there had to be some major break in whoever was checking at the plant, like wherever they are filling these things and canning them, because don't you think this would happen all the time? They're trying to blame the packaging supplier for sending the wrong cans to High Noon, who accidentally filled the Celsius cans with their vodka product. And now they've had to recall all these cans of Celsius and High Noon because they got filled with the wrong drinks.
So I'm really curious how they figured this out.
Well, first of all, I just want to say the packaging doesn't look anything. They're not even similar looking. So nobody at the High Noon plant was like, these aren't our cans. They look completely different.
I don't know that that's how it works. Like, listen, and I have no idea how these things work. I'm just going to give you an example of my only experience with this. Remember, I went on, like, in Pennsylvania, you could go on a tour of the Hers potato chip factory.
Yes.
And I went there, and I was surprised that in one room, they were packaging Tostitos. That's what they're called, right? The chips that are... One room was Tostitos on one machine. And then, like, on the other side of the room, there was another machine that had packaging from Wegmans that was the same kind of chips, tortilla chips. And I was just like, wow, this is weird. Is this just the same kind of chips that go into each bag and you just pay more for whatever's on the bag?
Yeah, basically.
But, like, the people that work at Hers, I assume just get the delivery of the packages and they put it on the machine and start doing it. So it's like, and Hers is a different situation. Like, these canning companies, they might have huge warehouses that do soda and all this other stuff too. Like, the workers just get what they're supposed to get and, like, fill it. It might not just be, like, specifically for that one brand. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say.
Wrong shipments can happen all the time.
I don't know what happened. I just curious, like, did it get discovered after someone purchased it and figured it out? Is that when it got discovered? I don't know, but...
Well, it got distributed because they're saying that...
Exactly. So that's what I'm thinking. Like, someone called them and was just like, okay, like, I just drank your product and it has vodka in it and I'm, like, feeling it.
Well, so it said the products were shipped to retailers in Florida, New York, Ohio, South Carolina, Virginia, and Wisconsin between July 21st and July 23rd. So the Astro Vibe Blue Raz flavor of Celsius has been recalled, as well as High Noon's Beach variety packs. So my question is, we know the vodka is in the Celsius cans, but did the Celsius get put in the High Noon cans?
Yes.
Okay.
But the High Noon is saying that they're recalled, but they're safe to drink, which I'm kind of like...
But what about people with, like, heart conditions?
With heart conditions and stuff, exactly. Like, yeah, it's safe to drink, except that it's an energy drink that you probably don't want if you have a heart condition. And obviously, like, children shouldn't be drinking the energy drinks either, but I know sometimes not sometimes, every single time we go on a road trip, Gabe always buys the disgusting Red Bull. I can't even stand the smell of it. It just is so gross. But he drinks it because, like, we have to drive 10 hours or whatever. But, like, people do that, right? You get it at the convenience store. Like, what if you're drinking that and then all of a sudden you feel like a buzz?
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
it's
I wonder if that's what happened. I mean, listen, they have like 4.5% alcohol in them, which is equivalent to like less than a beer, right?
it's it's not a lot, and I could say having I've drank high noons before, but they don't taste anything like what an energy drink would taste. I guess they taste so similarly, or they taste so differently, but you wouldn't know that unless you had both, right? So, like, let's say you had a high noon for the first time, you might not realize it's an energy drink
Yeah.
versus the drink and vice versa. But the lot codes are listed online, so I advise you go check those and make sure if you've bought any of these drinks in between this time, and
How
just make
pissed
sure.
would you be if you brought the high noon in a cooler to the beach to sit there all day and like get drunk and you drank like 3 or 4 of them and didn't get anything?
Or you had a heart attack because you just drank 4
Yeah,
energy
exactly.
drinks, which would
Exactly.
happen to me. So I don't know. Like,
No, it's interesting cuz like a lot of like in hindsight we could look and be like, "Oh, I'd be able to tell the difference." But if you're drinking what it says is in the can, wouldn't you just be like, I don't know why I'm just like not getting drunk at all. I just don't feel it. But like my heart's about to pound out of my chest. Like that's why I'm really curious, like how it got discovered. Did someone drink 4 of them and go to the emergency room with like heart palpitations and a caffeine overdose? Or did someone crash their car because they thought they were drinking an energy drink and it was really vodka? I don't know.
so even last week, I feel like it was on Thursday, I have 2 coffees every single day. I have one right when I wake up, and then I have one in the early afternoon. And then I have my early afternoon one, and I texted Ricky and I was like, I feel like I could run around the neighborhood 25 times. I it was that gross, I explain it and this sounds idiotic, like your blood is hard, like everything just stiffens in your body and your heart's pounding. That's how I feel when I have like a caffeine overdose. It is the grossest feeling in the world. It hasn't happened to me in so long. But I just imagine drinking a couple of these thinking it's just a vodka drink, and then you're just all of a sudden like, what is wrong with me? What is happening? This is the worst feeling ever. I don't know. This sucks for anybody that had to go through it.
Wait, so let me tell you the funniest meme that I've been seeing going around like for this. It's like it's like from the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory movie from like the 70s or 80s whenever that came out. And it's Charlie Bucket holding up the golden ticket and it's like me hoping that I get the Celsius with the vodka. It's like so funny.
This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
Guys, we did Hulk Hogan death dissection this week. I'm not sure what we're going to do next week. The celebrities have been dropping like flies around here, so maybe someone will die this week. If not, we might do some stories that we've had on the back burner. For the Gross Room Live, we did an hour episode. I guess we call it an episode last week. And we talked about lots of different things that are going on in the Gross Room and just anything that members want to talk about. But we also talked about that horrible story of that couple that got murdered in front of their children, as well as the surrogacy scandal, I guess you would say, or the loophole in the surrogacy that a sex offender was able to create a child through surrogacy and is now a parent and was able to bypass all that. So check that out in the Gross Room.
Head over to thegrossroom.com now to sign up.
Okay, this is a cool story.
So the world's oldest baby has been born after a couple adopted an embryo that was frozen in 1994, and now the baby was just born on July 26th.
Another good meme that's been going around is just like, imagine that you could have had a cool childhood growing up in the 90s and now you were born into this. This kid should be your age.
Yeah, so this embryo does have a 30-year-old sister. So the history behind this was the embryo was originally created in 1994 to a couple. They ended up getting 4 embryos in total, and they had one which resulted in a daughter who is also now the mother of a 10-year-old herself. So that's kind of cool. So they divorced, and the mother was awarded custody of the embryos. She eventually found out about this embryo adoption program, went forward with that. So now this couple had adopted that embryo and they had their transfer day last November, and now they have given birth to the baby.
So this baby is born and is now already an uncle to a 10-year-old.
Yeah, basically.
It's so weird. It's like this story is so just like really hard to process. So this is a question that I want to ask you. The husband, her and the husband got divorced, right?
Yeah.
And she won custody of embryos, which is just weird to think of because they are humans, which now it's a human. So this guy now has another kid walking around that, I mean, like, he didn't have any say over if that was going to be made into another human or not. I don't
Well,
know how I feel about that.
That would have had to been discussed in the custody agreement, because when you go through IVF, there is so much paperwork attached to it with what happens to the embryos and what's to happen if you have leftovers and how long they keep them. I mean, you have to pay for them to be in storage.
But if the wife had custody of the embryos, then, like, in my opinion, like, the guy, the actual, like, DNA father wouldn't have been involved at all.
Yeah, he would have had, I mean, he would have had to sign off that she could do whatever she wanted with them, because there was a really, not high profile necessarily, because I don't know how much this is well-known information, but I've talked about it on here before with Sofia Vergara, the actress. Her and her ex-husband had some embryos, and after they got divorced, he had wanted to go forward and have them with either by himself or with his new wife or girlfriend or whatever, and she did not want that, and then they ended up going to court over it, and the embryos were destroyed as a result.
Yeah,
so you have to
I mean, I don't blame her for that at all.
No, I mean, when you go through this process, there is so much paperwork involved detailing exactly what happens in pretty much every single scenario. So
it's actually kind of weird that, like, I could see in a normal person that you would want to do something like that because IVF is so expensive. But when you're a person that's multimillionaires, don't you think it's a little weird that he I believe they only got divorced because didn't she, like, not want to have kids or something?
well, that was with Joe Manganiello, who was her husband after him, her second husband.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe her third. I don't know. It was that breakup was not that same guy.
I'm mixing up husbands then.
No.
But regardless, like, why would someone want to have a baby of the ex?
Well, I guess it's like you've already gone through it all and it's expensive. I don't know what this guy was trying to do. I think and I'm not saying this is what he was doing. I think in some cases it could be nefarious. Like, you want to go forward and have this baby and then go after the other parent for child support. But that's why they cover all.
Not even that, just like creepy, like, I'm not over this person. I don't know. Like,
it is
like I'm saying,
weird.
Money isn't an object with these people. I mean, I understand, like, whatever, IVF's like $30,000 or $40,000 a pop or whatever it is, but, like, that's like $400 to us. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
yeah. I don't really know, but I think the point of this story is it's kind of coming up about how there's a lot of I don't know if this is the right word, but, like, I don't want to say waste necessarily, because they're lives, right? But there's a lot of embryos that aren't able to be implanted in people and they end up getting destroyed. So I guess they're really encouraging people that have extra embryos to try to put them up for adoption so they at least come to fruition and they're not just destroyed. So I can see that, but at the same time, not everybody going through it is going to be comfortable with their biological child going to somebody else.
Yeah, and I know someone that's in a situation like that there's extra embryos, and but like, that also puts into account that their children would have full biological siblings somewhere else. And that might put complexity into the child's life. I mean, that could be a great thing to find out that you have a sibling later in life, or even to know about it your whole life, but it also it adds complexity, and people might not want to induce that.
I wonder about it with 23andMe, right? When these tests start coming out and you start revealing all these infidelities that happened over the last couple of decades that were never previously revealed. But this adds that extra level of complexity, like, oh no, I had extra embryos and I wanted to donate them, so you do have a full-blooded sibling out there, but I did the right thing. There was no affair or anything like that. But I mean, we're just going to see this with IVF over time. I think IVF's such a hot topic right now, and it's kind of hard to believe that it first happened in the late 70s. I have a hard time even computing that it's that far back, and to see that a baby that was frozen or I guess a lot of people working in the field don't want you to call an embryo a baby because it's not like a fully developed baby, so I shouldn't use that terminology. To see an embryo develop from 1994 and come to fruition in 2025 is kind of insane scientifically, and it's really awesome that they're even able to do that.
It really is. It's just like I just can't really wrap my brain around it. It's just kind of weird to think. I mean, I guess every person that goes through IVF though, to some extent, unless you're getting the thing put in you right away, is like you're kind of messing with the dates of when it was supposed to be born, when it was created, kind of thing.
Yeah, because there's fresh transfers and frozen transfers. So I actually think most people go through frozen transfers. So at some point the embryo is frozen, and yeah, you are just not on the same timeline, because I think even after you do the retrieval and the time it takes for the embryos to develop, you're just still off course from when it would happen naturally. And then people can get, I've seen stories where people get like 15 embryos or something crazy off of one yield. So then they're just kind of sitting there.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if this woman, you have to pay for the storage for them every year. So like, I wonder if this woman was paying the storage fee every single year. Is it a lot? I think it's a couple $100 a year. I mean, that's not cheap for a lot of people.
I guess it's just, I mean, this isn't even anywhere on the same level, but like when I had the kids' breast milk in the freezer, right? Like even when they were totally off of it, I still had some left and it was in the freezer, and I just was like, I can't throw this out. Like I didn't throw it out for like years because I was like, I feel weird throwing this out. Like it's the same kind of thing. Like you're going to pay for it because it's not even the same kind of thing. It's on a totally different level, but like if you don't pay for it, they're going to get destroyed, right? So like you have to do it.
Yeah. Because you, like, in the paperwork, it addresses every possible scenario, like what happens if you don't pay, like if you consent to them being donated or whatever like that. So I do think it's cool because the couple that ended up adopting the embryo had been trying for 7 years. So it's definitely a nice story to see, because I can't even imagine how horrific that is. Just like, that's such an incredibly long time to be going through something like that.
Jeez.
All right, so let's talk about this study with breast implants and heart disease.
All right, so this is a study. It's not really necessarily a study, but it's a case report that I came across that I wanted to share with you guys. It was done in the Journal of American College and Cardiology case reports. A 50-year-old woman, she presented with symptomatic sinoatrial node dysfunction. So the sinoatrial or SA node is considered to be like the natural pacemaker of the heart. And when there is a problem with that, it could give you an atypical heartbeat or an irregular heartbeat or an arrhythmia. So they started working her up to see exactly like what was causing her to have this. And during the workup, they found out that she had silicone breast implants that had leaked. And not only did it get within her lymph node tissue that they biopsied and saw underneath of the microscope, they were able to see this material under the microscope that was foreign material consistent with silicone, but also it was within the heart muscle as well. And it's the first described case of this happening, but I just thought it was kind of cool to tell you guys about.
So do you think that everybody with breast implants is at risk of this, or this is just a really unusual scenario?
I think they think that it's an unusual scenario. One of the things that they were bringing up was basically, if you do have breast implants, it can trigger inflammatory syndromes. And in this case, it's that's been described before in other parts of the body, but it just was interesting that it affected the heart as well in this woman. So they took the silicone breast implants out, and she didn't get really much better until they put her on some high dosage immune drugs as well as steroids, and that was able to kind of get it a little bit under control. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I was thinking about because she's pretty young, being only 50 years old, so I wouldn't think you just thinking about breast implants and things like that. I believe that the ones that were really known to leak came out well before this woman was um of age to get breast implants. So I'm just curious of what kind of particular implant, because that was a really big thing back in the 70s and 80s with leaking silicone breast implants, which is why, like, speaking of Pam Anderson in this episode, I feel like she always had. Remember, there was this period of time with the breast implants that everyone was getting saline and they just had this very like water balloon look to them. They just
Yeah.
didn't really look very natural and stuff because everybody was so scared of silicone. But then they switched over to a better kind of silicone. So she's just in a like a weird age group to be having something like this. But I don't know if she had them in this country or whatever. I don't know any of that. But it's just curious. And I mean we wrote a whole entire in the gross room a high profile dissection on silicone breast implant illness, or just breast implant illness in general, and how it's not really recognized for the most part by the medical community, but there's just so many people who swear that they're having problems with them. And there's definitely been documentation in some cases of lymphomas associated with some, I believe, I don't know if it was implants or tissue expanders, but regardless, that's like a really interesting read. We went through all of the different associations and case studies of people that were claiming to have breast implant illness.
All right, let's wrap up with this story, which is insane. During the bar exam, a graduate went into our favorite term, cardiac arrest, while the test was going on, and they did not stop the test.
All right, so I don't know. I could go both ways on this. I guess is the bar exam 2 days? It seems like it was 2 days and it was at the end of the second day of the test.
It was before the lunch break. They said it happened minutes before the lunch break, which is why they're justifying not stopping the test. But the people taking the test are arguing, how am I supposed to concentrate when they're trying to revive a woman that's having a medical emergency in front of me?
This is the thing, though. When you take a test like the bar exam, it's a big deal, studying for months, all of that stuff. And it's very regulated as far as how many minutes people get to sit there. There's just like all these regulations for it. So if you go and stop the test on the second day in the middle of the day when there's only half of a day left to take the test, then every single person there would have to retake the test over again. They're not going to let you just like finish another day, that part.
No, I think they should have stopped the test. If it was only a couple minutes out, they should have stopped it when she started having the episode and said, everybody leave and come back after lunch. And then they should have added those minutes on the end of that second half of the day. And gave everybody like an hour or two to calm down instead of trying to work through the rest of the part they were on while this woman's like getting revived next to them. How are you possibly supposed to pay attention? And that frazzles a lot of people.
I understand that, but guess what? Like, I look at it like, let's pretend this was doctors taking a medical board, right? And they were saying the same thing. It's just kind of like, well, guess what? In real life, when you're a doctor, prepare to be frazzled. Prepare to have things thrown at you that you have to think on your feet and be like, oh my God, I have to ignore this totally crazy thing that's happening right now and like focus on my job. The same could be said about lawyers, right? Like, that chick that was a public defender that got called to be Brian Koberger's lawyer and had to deal with him every single day, and the nightmare she probably has every single night because she's seen the autopsy pictures and like looked at that guy's eyes and everything else. Like you have to be kind of like mentally stronger than to let that side noise that doesn't even affect you or your life at all to get in the way of you like concentrating on your test.
Yeah, but I think if somebody had a medical emergency in the middle of the courtroom, they would stop court and put everybody on recess.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about in general, like side things that happen to you that.
No, totally. But like seeing autopsy pictures is a lot different than like seeing somebody possibly die right in front of you while you're like in the middle of a high stress test in general. So like, yeah, you could see both
you're
ways.
You're just different person. Like you go to the Maryland house on a road trip and see someone have a heart attack in front of you and it ruins your vacation. Like
it didn't ruin my vacation. I just said I don't want to go back there. Okay.
I'm just saying, like, you get really affected by things and like
you work around death. It's different. Like not all lawyers are working with criminal cases. A lot of them work in like construction law or
we don't know if she died. She just her heart just stopped.
I'm just saying it's jarring as a lay person seeing a person having a medical episode.
Listen, this is what they should do. They should have either I mean, I do disagree with the fact that they should have just been like, nothing to see here. Let's go on. The test must go on. Right? Like they should have said to people like, listen, if you want to retake the test, you can.
I don't think they need to retake the whole test. I'm saying they should, if it was 10 minutes before lunch, they should have said, go to lunch right now while we handle this, and we're going to add 10 minutes on the second half of the day.
Yeah, but they could have possibly been in the middle of a section of a test.
Yeah, but this is a special circumstance. Like, I don't think they need to retake the entire test. I think they just needed to, like, let them leave and not watch her be revived in the middle of the room. They could have given her some privacy and not made them sit there and witness
just because I know, like, just because I've taken tests like this, especially for my certification and stuff like that, it's just so regulated, and just to think like you would leave in the middle of it and go back, like I don't really know what to say, because also none of these people are going to be complaining when they get their bar results back if they pass, but if they didn't, then they're going to be like, no, I want that number I don't know. Like it's kind of an unforeseen circumstance, and no matter what they did is like just sucks. I mean, most of the time people don't drop dead in the middle of taking a test like that. Like
they should be given a pardon if they pass to redo it without penalty, because I think you're only allowed to take it like twice, and if you don't pass.
Oh yeah, they definitely should in that case. And is it like a pass-fail test, or is it based upon a score? Like, is it better if you get a higher score? I don't really know.
Isn't it a score because like doesn't Elwood say 179?
Well, yeah, but that might just be you need a certain score to ensure you're gonna pass.
Yeah, I don't think you're graded like A through F, but I think if you're over a certain number, then you've passed. But if you're under, then you fail.
It's just like a very unusual circumstance.
It is, but I don't know. Like, I don't think. Yeah, I just think they could have maybe been like, you don't need to sit here and watch this woman be resuscitated by EMS while you're in the middle of taking this test that's defining your future. You can just leave a couple minutes earlier, go out of the room, and come back or something. I don't know. Okay, guys, we are going to be at CrimeCon from September 5th to the 7th in Denver, Colorado. Please leave reviews for us on Apple or Spotify. And if you have a story for us, please submit it to stories@motherknowsdeath.com.
See you guys. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor, and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.